On this episode of With Love, the Chambers.
When you are quote unquote in the middle class, you might have 2 or 3 kids in college. You might have mortgage or other financial opportunities and expenses. But most state schools, including here in California, utilize a simple formula that says, hey, I'm not looking at your expenses. I'm just looking at, on paper, what you should be able to contribute to your child's education. And so feeling some of that squeeze and feeling the difference even in access to merit-based opportunities from 4 years ago to now, with so many nonprofit organizations and others having a shortfall in their funding, having a shortfall in their access. And so even organizations that would service these students not being resourced in the same way. And boy, is it feeling like a stark contrast going into fall of 2026 versus going into fall of 2022 when our older daughter was doing this.
You know, I'm unconvinced that this financial riddle is going to be solved in a broad sweep. Mm-hmm. I'm sure that there'll be some kind of changes or adjustments, but I don't ever envision a day where Los Angeles, San Francisco, and New York will not be the most expensive places to live, in theory, in the United States.
Welcome to With Love, the Chambers.
Where life, laughter, and lasting lessons meet.
We're the Chambers, a husband and wife navigating faith, family, and everything in between.
Here we share real stories, heartfelt conversations, and a whole lot of love. Because life isn't perfect, but God's grace sure is.
So pull up a seat, grab a cup of coffee, or go ahead and sip that tea, and join us for honest talks, laughs, and the wisdom we're learning along the way. This is With Love, the Chambers.
If you've been enjoying the stories, the laughs, and those deep life lessons, we invite you to support the show and help us keep the love flowing. Head over to www.coff.ee/withlovethechambers. Think of it like buying us a cup of coffee or 2. As always, thank you for hanging with us. Now back to the show.
Welcome to another episode of With Love, the Chambers. And we are excited to be joining you once again, whether you're listening on With Love Wednesday, a Thursday, a Friday, or any other day in our week. We just want to greet you and welcome you to another exciting episode. I am joined by none other than the dream releaser, Cover Girl Jamila. How are you doing today?
I'm telling you, one thing about Black folks, I'm just thinking, we love to sing us some days of the week. You know, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. You know,
that's right.
Alexander O'Neal and the Sherelle.
That's right.
Listen,
that's
if
right.
you don't know nothing about
that's
Saturday Love, that's some Black history. And then we got on Monday, Tuesday, I will bless the Lord.
Oh yeah. Who is that? The
Prince of Praise himself, Byron Cage.
Come on.
I'm telling
that's
you.
When he was on top of the game back then.
Thursday, I will bless the Lord.
That brother was on top.
I will bless the Lord. Yeah.
He was on top.
You started saying, well, With Love Wednesday on a Thursday and all of, I'm like,
that's
Sunday,
right.
Monday. We love to sing us some days of the week.
Sure
and
do.
Whether you are listening to us on With Love Wednesday or another day of the week, we're so happy to have you here. Welcome.
That's right. Welcome. And today we are diving into a conversation. And, you know, here in Los Angeles, we had the awesome, amazing opportunity to do none other than actually vote.
Yes.
Vote.
Yes.
We never want to take for granted that we have the opportunity to exercise our right as citizens of the United States. And we actually cast our vote. Ballot day, I believe, was June 4th on a Tuesday. And we
June 2nd.
Oh, June 2nd.
In LA.
Oh, yeah,
yes.
That's right. June 2nd. June 2nd. And we casted our vote via the United States Postal Service, and I know that is somewhat controversial.
Yes.
But, here in California, in LA County specifically, there were a number of candidates running for both mayor and governor. The governor of California, and then obviously the mayor of Los Angeles. So we, like some of you all, may have been inundated with so many political posturing and potential policies and all of this kind of good stuff. And one thing we felt it would be fun to kind of dive into the conversation of affordability. Obviously, Jamila and I have been living in the state of California our entire lives,
Yes.
and we have grown accustomed to the cost of living in this state of California. But, this ballot season, there are a lot of very, very concerned residents of California that are concerned that things have just gotten too high for California. And that's saying a whole lot. I think between
for the natives, yes.
I think between Los Angeles, San Francisco, Silicon Valley, New York, I think those are probably the most expensive cities or regions in the nation for the most part. So affordability is certainly something that we believe deserves a conversation. And I think also us personally, we're living through it.
Yes.
We're fortunate.
Yes.
We say fortunate to be in the quote unquote middle class, but the squeeze has been on and popping on the middle class. And Jamila, just kind of crack the ice. I know before, in our little pre-meeting, you were sharing just some of the watching our daughters transition from high school and college in this season, and how you've been thinking this time versus 4 years ago as it pertains to affordability. But why don't you just open up and share some things on your heart about this conversation?
Yeah. So one of the things that we've had the privilege of doing for the last couple of weeks is watching both of our daughters graduate. And so we had one daughter graduate from the University of Southern California, go Trojans, fight on. And will be transitioning into the world of work as a young adult, first time working full time in the workforce. So we watched like that transition. And then we have a daughter graduating from high school that will be attending the University of California, Los Angeles in the fall.
You just going to tell all our business.
Listen,
go ahead.
Listen, because one thing we going to do is celebrate and continue to celebrate.
But I'm going to hire CIA to watch my girls as you dropping dime on where they be at and where they will be. So I'm calling the FBI.
If you find them in the tens of thousands of students. But yeah, so they're have attended and are attending those schools. So we had this question and this lens of affordability with one student coming out of private school, the expense of a private school education, the return on investment for private school education, et cetera. So we're having this whole conversation with that lens, and really what that means for affordability. These schools are almost $100,000 a year to attend. The tuition at these private schools is anywhere between $70,000 and $85,000 a year. And then by the time you put housing on top of that and meal plans and all that, extremely expensive. We should do a pod at a whole nother time about scholarships and things that we've learned from having a student at a private school, because there are also some financial benefits that we were not aware of, and namely they get the opportunity to award scholarships on a merit basis to any student that they decide to, regardless of financial need. And so sometimes middle school students do not go after, middle class students and students that traditionally would not be eligible for need-based opportunities at a state school typically don't go after private school opportunities because it feels out of reach. And so we've learned some things and definitely want to share that. Fast forward 4 years later, we have a student going to a California public school. as an undergraduate, and feeling the financial pinch of that, because now you're back into a state school system which utilizes a formula to decide where aid lies with students and how certain students get access to and resources to dollars and other students don't. And when you are in the middle class, and when I say in the middle class, boy, that range is large. that range is very, very large. When you are quote unquote in the middle class, you might have 2 or 3 kids in college. You might have mortgage or other financial opportunities and expenses. But most state schools, including here in California, utilize a simple formula that says, hey, I'm not looking at your expenses. I'm just looking at, on paper, what you should be able to contribute to your child's education. And so feeling some of that squeeze and feeling the difference even in access to merit-based opportunities from 4 years ago to now, with so many nonprofit organizations and others having a shortfall in their funding, having a shortfall in their access. And so even organizations that would service these students not being resourced in the same way. And boy, is it feeling like a stark contrast going into fall of 2026 versus going into fall of 2022, when our older daughter was doing this just 48 months ago, just 4 short years ago. It was just a difference in that posture and a difference in that experience. And so that was part of why we wanted to have that conversation.
And real quick, let me just put some data on this.
Sure.
There have been, I think within the last month, some of the ranges for income for families has been reevaluated. Mm-hmm. So for a family of 4 in Los Angeles, according to this data that I'm looking for, it looks like it's from the Pew Research Center, the poverty level is a household income of under $32,000. Working poor near poverty is 32 to 74. Lower middle class is 74 to 120,000. Middle class is 120,000 to 180,000. Upper middle class is 180 to 222,000. Upper class is considered anything over $222,000 for a family of 4. And I find that very interesting.
Now, when Rufus said, let me translate for y'all. When Rufus says, I find that very interesting, that means, what the heck?
Do you feel upper class?
Sir! And he said,
we riding around with 4. The racks in the middle off Crenshaw. I don't feel upper class.
And for those of y'all that need to translate, we live where they ride around in the V12s with the racks in the middle.
That's where we live. That's where we live.
And according to that's considered upper middle class.
No, upper class.
Upper just period. Let me put my glasses on.
Yeah.
Just upper period.
Upper middle class is a household income of 180 to 222.
And anything over 222. Got it.
Is upper class. Allegedly.
Just flat out upper class.
That's an alleged.
Got it. So with that just really added some data and some context to what we're feeling and what we're experiencing. Because even if you have a combined joint income and we're blessed to be able to do that over $200,000 when gas is $6 a gallon in housing costs and food costs. And, you got a kid in college and another kid going and all of those sorts of things. It really feels like, and that's what Rufus, you were describing as that squeeze,
Very much so.
On the middle class, because that statistic that you just shared even amplified this conversation even more. If folks making $200,000 a year living off Crenshaw in South LA, and now mind you, let me be clear, everything in LA is off Crenshaw.
That's a long street.
That's a long street. So.
That's a long street now.
But when you say that and talk about that squeeze, if you have people that are making $200,000 in the same category as people that are 7-figure earners or mid 6-figure earners, 7-figure earners, etc., if that is all then considered the same bucket,
Yeah.
then therein lies, just by definition, where that disparity is, because that range is not robust.
We're not in the same income class as LeBron James.
Correct.
Let's make it plain.
But according to Pew,
Let's make it plain.
but according to us and Magic, is in the same. Exactly.
We peers.
We're peers, right? Exactly. So I think that is the squeeze and the tension and what is felt kind of in this moment. And so we're feeling it in the sense of having this higher education discussion and what do we do about children in college, going to college, transitioning, and all those sorts of things. But I want to take a step back to something that you mentioned in your intro, which is us physically being native to the state of California and growing up here. And for several generations now, you and I are both about 3 generations here. Grandparents were not born here, but lived here. Parents were born and raised, lived here in California, various parts of California, but born and raised in California. And then you and I, born, raised, lived, have also raised our families in California. Our children are 4th generation from California, in California. And so talk about that conversation about cost of living here, some of the conversation around flight from California because of cost of living. And then you and I have even talked about this at being our big age now and thinking about retirement the next 10, 15 years. What does that all look like with staying in the state, and financially how we'll be able to leverage? And I know it's a lot there, but this whole conversation from these 3 lenses of being in California. We got the natives and folks that are here, folks that are considering leaving to make it work, and then folks are considering leaving and transitioning out at the retirement stage. That's been a conversation for sure.
Yeah, no, it is a whole conversation. I think, like you said, we've built our lives and careers in highly expensive regions. I just looked up the median house price in LA County is now $910,000.
Wow.
And 10 years ago, that median price was $530,000.
Wow.
And again, when you do the math, for income to keep pace with that home price,
yes,
we know that people's salaries have not doubled on average in the last 10 years. So I think that's part of the pinch and part of the frustration is income has not kept up with the rate of acceleration of affordability. And that's where I believe a lot of people are feeling the squeeze and the pinch and really being choked out financially.
Yes.
And I think, again, it deserves a conversation. I mean, yes, Jamila, you and I are privileged in that we are homeowners. We have been homeowners. And that our income has been able to help us keep our heads above water.
Yes.
And we're grateful for that.
Yes.
Right? But that's not everybody's story.
No.
And to your point, our children are entering into an economy that is less favorable than when we were coming out of college in the late 90s.
Yes. When
our salaries were like automatically conducive of having a moderate lifestyle.
Yes.
So now, again, the tables are turned. And now I think, people are looking at these quote unquote politicians and leaders to help solve the riddle as if the riddle can be solved. Mm-hmm. I'm unconvinced that this financial riddle is going to be solved in a broad sweep. I'm sure that there'll be some kind of changes or adjustments, but I don't ever envision a day where Los Angeles, San Francisco, and New York will not be the most expensive places to live, in theory, in the United States, period. Because it's been like that for so long. But should those scales adjust? Hopefully. And, you know, the whole flight thing that you mentioned, it's a legitimate concern for families to say, hey, based on my marketable skill and my earning potential, can I live comfortably in another region? And of course, we've talked about it. We've considered it. We've had friends who have moved and done extremely well.
Yes.
Because I think for families and even individuals, the question is, being comfortable is one thing. Building multi-generational wealth is something else. So building multi-generational wealth in a region that has a very high affordability clip is just very difficult. And we've tried to do what we can do. But yeah, I mean, to be honest, audience, as you're listening, we've been talking for the last, 5 to 10 years about if we need to hit the eject button out of, Los Angeles or California, or at least Los Angeles and the Bay Area, to help us be able to solve our financial riddle as a family. That's what we're going to do. And we understand Fresno is a more affordable region. We understand that Bakersfield is a more affordable region. We also understand Sacramento is a more affordable region. And one of the things that's been on the ballot, and I'll throw it over to you, is, one of the candidates, I believe it's the Republican leading gubernatorial candidate, Hilton. He's proposing a wide sweeping state income tax cut to make it more affordable. And what this is saying is eliminating state income tax on the first 100,000 earned, and eliminate tax on tips. So, I mean, if you think about it, if a family's household income was $90,000, they wouldn't pay state income tax, which is obviously north of 10%. I don't know what it is. I think it's 12.5 or something. But so that could be a serious relief, especially for people that are retired. Because, if you're 75 years old and you pay an income tax on your retirement income, that matters. When healthcare is increasing, when gas is increasing, when food is increasing. But what are your thoughts on this flight conversation? How have you always personally felt about it?
It's just so interesting. You took me back, and I'm thinking of our oldest daughter. When you and I graduated from college in the 90s, we were able to get that first job out of school, and that was great. And with my first job, I had enough money with that income to be able to get a 1-bedroom apartment, upgrade my car to a more reliable, vehicle, and be self-sufficient. I lived alone. I was able to, pay my utilities and expenses and groceries and gas and do all those things and have a little bit of money to play around with. And that was the late 90s. And it feels like, and you and I have talked about this so much offline, just people we know in our own life, within 5 years of that, with folks graduating and folks coming out of school, it just changed tremendously, where people were going and getting roommates, not because they desired to save money or wanted to do something more affordable. Like, that was the only way they were able to move, quote unquote, move out or be able to afford living, or they had to come back home and live with parents or loved ones or kind of live in multi-generational spaces, because just that affordability conversation, even within 5 years, so that early 2000s, right before the housing crisis of 07, 08, that early 2000s is when we saw that shift. Nowadays, there hasn't been much change. We are seeing kids come out of college with a tremendous amount of income compared to whatever our salaries were coming out. But the same thing exists. In order for them to financially, be viable and make decisions, they got to live with roommates, really don't have purchasing power, even with higher incomes, and really trying to make some different decisions. And as we move through this as a family, happy to come back and share what we decide to do and how we decide to navigate that. Again, having someone going into the workforce for the first time. So it is just that flight conversation, and do I stay or do I go, or how do I navigate this? It's a tough one. People ask us all the time, and when I hear this, if you want to know one thing that kind of makes me cringe on the inside, really because of that statistic you shared earlier, Rufus, median household income or median price of a home in California now is $900,000. 10 years ago was $500,000. Because of that, people will say to us, "I'm waiting to buy." Right. You don't see Rufus's face right now. Like, if you want to know something that makes us cringe on the inside, is folks that are high income earners, and we know several that are renting now and making the decision to rent, because let's face it, wherever you would buy is not probably in the same hood that you're renting. And right.
Hello, somebody.
Hello, somebody. But people will come and say, well, I'm just waiting a couple years to wait for the market to slow down, or wait for this to change, or wait for that to change. And what I would tell anyone is, if you have the opportunity to get in the market in any way, especially in California, take advantage of that opportunity to get into the market, whether that be a condo, townhome, kind of shared multi-unit type of space that you can own, whether it's a fixer-upper, whether it's not in the neighborhood that today, and come on somebody, gentrification is a real thing. It might be not be in the neighborhood that's as desirable today, but you're able to get in there, take advantage of the tax benefits of being a homeowner, and the equity in California is still unbeat. Now, I don't know too many people that in 10 years are going to save $500,000, $400,000. So when you talk about that difference between buying a home for $500,000 10 years ago, selling it for $1 million now, that's $500,000 in equity in that property. And that's what happens in California. The downside to that is every other property also has that tremendous amount of equity. And so what we jokingly say in California here in LA is, I can't even afford to buy my own home again, right? So you buy your own home and you're like, now my home's worth $1 million. I'm not even sure if I could buy my own home back again. So you see that, you see so many, and especially in our neighborhood, expanding and making their properties multi-generation properties with ADUs, and there's incentives because of our lack of affordable housing and lack of housing in LA in particular. There's incentives for folks to add ADUs to their properties, and all of these sorts of things. So most of the time, too, when I hear people having that conversation around flight, especially for young professionals that are some of those high end, tell me what we are again, babe. We're upper class. You have to tell me.
Yeah, no, upper class, according to this,
upper class, according to Pew.
A household of 4 over $222,000.
Well, I'm today years old. But for we know many people that are upper class by that definition, and not necessarily in home ownership, because they're waiting for some circumstance to change in California. And that's been our experience. We bought our first home in 2000. So we've been homeowners and in this market and in this space for now 26 years. And what we have discovered is that there's never a moment where there's going to be this free fall. When the interest rates get better and the money gets cheaper to borrow, it's just more competitive and more borrowers in the marketplace. So with that said, Rufus, I want you to, and I know we're taking a little bit of a left turn, but talk about this market, this real estate game. You've been in it. What nuggets did I leave out to the people that are thinking about that flight, especially that have helped them kind of navigate through this California market in that way?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm not mad at anybody that has a strategic financial plan that you have created that identifies the path so that you can reach your financial goals.
Yes.
If that is in Los Angeles, if that is in Denver, if that is in Phoenix, if that is, in Atlanta, I'm not mad at you, but I'm saying count the cost, put together a plan, and run the numbers. Mm-hmm. And I think one thing that has made relocating out of California more advantageous and feasible is because of virtual work being more acceptable in certain markets. You may be able to relocate to a region where the cost of living is 30% less, but you may be able to continue to earn your same income. Like when we were coming up, Jamila, I remember our companies would have adjusted our salaries down. Like if we would have moved to Dallas 15 years ago.
Yeah. Oh, no, we've been working longer than that.
No. But when we were considering, just so y'all know, we thought about relocating to Dallas in 2010, I believe, give or take, somewhere in there. Yep. And at the time, I believe our companies would have adjusted our salaries down between 5 and 10%. But the income tax in Texas is, I think, less than half, right? Than California. And do they have a state income tax?
I don't know. They don't have one major tax that we have.
Yeah. So anyway, so that would have taken care of that. And then secondly, the cost of living at that time, oh my goodness, it was so much less.
They do not. Texas does not have state personal income tax.
So we would have picked up income tax, would have taken would have offset whatever adjustment we would have had on our salaries, and the cost of living would have been significantly less. So that would have been a come up. And I think the key is in the plan is, again, making moves that not only provide comfort, but provide the opportunity to save, invest, and generate wealth. So just don't go to kick it. Like, I'm not going to move to Dallas because I want a new S580 Mercedes with the quilted back seats that recline. That would be ignorant to
But you do want that.
I do want that. I do. No, hear me. The S580 has been on the radar.
I was like, you seem to be very specific about
it. Has been on the radar, and it will be on the radar. But I'm not going to relocate.
That was a very specific.
I'm not going to relocate just so that I could get that. That would be that would be foolish.
Got you.
But it's about counting the cost, and even as we advise and counsel our kids, that's a legitimate concern, or it's a legitimate part of the counsel that we give them. And I know we got family in California and we have all these ties to California, but this is what I tell Jamila. If I can retire at 67 in Albuquerque, New Mexico, but I have to retire at 75 in Los Angeles, I'm going to be in New Mexico. I'm not going to work longer just to say that I'm in Los Angeles. I mean, I have no desire to do that, especially now traveling is a lot more convenient than it once was when we were younger.
Yes.
Flying, I remember, flying to Louisiana when I was a kid, that was like a huge big deal. You had this big paper ticket and flying was but now you got your phone, you can book a flight and get wherever you need to get. So, and, again, I think another thing about us is regardless of affordability, wherever our kids set up their lives, we're going to want to be close so that we can be engaged, with their families and with them and grandchildren and all of that good stuff. So, but I think the lesson and the game to our listeners, regardless of your age, regardless of your ethnicity, regardless of whatever generation or whatever market you're in, regardless of your revenue, create a plan, a financial plan that helps give you a roadmap of how to safely navigate your career and plan for retirement. I think that's really the name of the game. I don't care if you live in Alaska, put together a plan so that you can achieve those goals, because the truth of the matter is, if we don't have a solid plan now, we will become liabilities to our children and grandchildren. And we don't want that. We don't want to be liabilities. I don't want to be a bill for my kids. You know what I mean? They write out their bills. Well, he bought that S580 back in
with the quilted seats.
With the quilted seats back when he was 54 years old, and that set him back. I'm not trying to be a bill.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, it's real talk.
Yes.
It is real talk. And let me ask this. Let's be messy just a little bit about this whole fiscal policy stuff. Okay. You know what I mean? Because, again, in election season, part of the narrative is always one party is better fiscally than the other party. And I kind of feel like it's cap at this point because I feel like both parties have had a turn at the wheel, and the country is where it's at, right? But I guess for you, when you look at fiscal policy and how leaders are going to steward finances, what are you looking for in candidates, especially like right now? What do you want the mayor of Los Angeles to do, regarding financials?
It's just such an interesting conversation because you're asking that question also to a Black woman. And a Black woman of a certain age, right?
Child,
I know. Today
I didn't even know. Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
So it's interesting, and you and I have talked about this offline and experienced this. There are things. So let's be clear about California. Many people, and understandably, consider California to be a quote unquote blue or Democratic state. However, in our lifetime, we have had just about 50-50 Republican and Democratic governors.
Absolutely.
And so the Pete Wilsons, the Arnold Schwarzeneggers have been right up there with the Gavin Newsoms and shoot, before Gavin, I can't even remember a Democratic governor before Gavin. Y'all will have to Google it and look it up. But in my lifetime, I'll be 52 this year. There has been about a 50-50 in California in my lifetime between Democratic and Republican.
Oh, wow. This says since 1980, California has had 7 gubernatorial administrations split almost evenly between Democrats and Republicans.
Now, I didn't even have to Google that. I just felt that off in my spirit. Yeah,
that's right.
But yeah, so that has been what it is, and so we get the rap. That's who I was forgetting. Gray Davis. There we go. Yeah. I was like, it was like Pete Wilson, Arnold Schwarzenegger, because Gray Davis, I think, only had 1 term or something like that. He was out so quick. Yeah. But I say all that to say we get that rap, but truly it has been split down the middle and has been kind of both directions in California with our leadership here. And because of our income and just being honest, there have been things that we have financially benefited from under Republican administrations, because those administrations tend to write laws that are more favorable to people that are higher income earners. All the social services and social kind of social responsibility and those types of platforms and policies typically aren't built into those administrations. So we've been able to benefit more financially. Allegedly, and to some degree in some seasons. Don't get me to quote, and it's been so long, I can't remember.
I just don't remember ever feeling it. I've never.
Right. But I remember saying, "Oh my goodness, And so there's been parts there. However, at the same time, because of who I am as a Black woman, the community that I come from, the community that I identify with, there's such an income disparity just in the community in general. The disparity in healthcare resources and support, the disparity in education, having a whole conversation growing up, being born in the 70s, growing up in the 80s and 90s, and what that kindergarten to prison pipeline, and having that whole conversation, the crack epidemic and all of those things. When we start talking about policy and fiscal policy, even if it benefited me personally, my community just by and large didn't benefit. And so what I would say to anybody, and what we have learned, and I'm trying to think of the turn of phrase my dad would use, but whether it's the donkey or the elephant, they're cousins, or it's the same suit. Y'all drop it in the chat. They have a more eloquent way of giving the analogy that both of these parties really are the same and don't have much difference. Whether it's special interest money that they're utilizing and not keeping promises once they get in office, utilizing the Black folk in particular with the Democratic Party when it's convenient, and then when it's time to get down to policy and brass tacks, not necessarily seeing those benefits kind of come back to the Black community and want the Black vote, but not necessarily making the investment there. And so with all that being said, I think when you say, well, what do we want out of our elected officials? What should we be looking for as responsible constituents? How should we be approaching, our vote and the way we come after these elections? Is we have to get engaged. We have to educate ourselves. I think it's important to get into community. You and I have utilized trusted people and individuals to talk through some of these issues with, when there are things that we didn't understand. What are the long-term implications of these decisions? And so we're talking about taking away the income tax and taking away the tax on tips. What does that mean if those tax dollars are no longer available? Then what is also no longer available from a social services standpoint? Because one thing California is known for, even with our high income tax and everything else, our minimum wage is significantly higher than the nation. And in Los Angeles, a city of Los Angeles in particular, $17.68 or something like that. Our ability to have paid sick time and paid family leave, extended paid parental leave benefits and things of that nature. There are other things that, again, these tax dollars are funding and making available, that when we take away that financial resource, what happens on the back end? Because it's not just we're going to get this tax benefit over here, and we're also going to keep at the same level getting a benefit on another end. There is no such thing as trickle down. Nothing's going to trickle down. We've been waiting for trickle down economy, and we're going to give a tax break, and then we're going to feel a trickle. We've been waiting for that since the 80s.
It just hasn't happened.
It has not happened. It has not happened yet. So I just think we have to be prudent and responsible. And if there's something that we don't know, educate ourselves, get in community to educate ourselves. And I think especially for Black folks in particular, we have, I won't even just say the opportunity, we have the responsibility to make sure that we are in the collective voting in our own best interest.
It's funny. I had a conversation with a gentleman over the last couple of days, and, he said that he doesn't vote, for a host of reasons. Mm-hmm. And I guess, what is your message to people that may not feel like their vote matters or just choose not to participate in this process? And I think the data said in LA County, less than 30% of eligible voters voted in this election. What's your message to them?
First of all, I just want to pause and acknowledge, and every time that comes up, people collectively want to clutch their pearls and say, I don't understand why you don't vote. I don't understand why that happens. I totally understand, because it has felt like that's been a futile effort, or that it didn't matter. Or, in some cases, it has felt like people have stood behind candidates and stood behind issues, and only to see, especially in recent years, many of those things get rolled back, dialed back, and slowed down. So I understand the disappointment, and I understand the lack of trust in the system. But what I would say is that any government, any system, any family, any company, any corporation is not an entity. It's the people in the entity. And so if you're not there, if your voice is not there, if you're not showing up and you're not present, then you don't get an opportunity to influence the system. So the person that we are waiting on to see the change that we desire to see is you. And whether that be our vote, or again, even pulling it all the way back into our families and into our communities, the person that is going to make the difference, the person that's going to step up, the person that's going to fill the void is you. And when you're not present, then we don't get the benefit of having your voice in that number. That's good. What's the saying? The arc of justice bends slowly, but it bends slowly. Come on. The arc always bends towards justice, but it bends slowly. And so even everything that we walk into, we talked about in this conversation, we threw some things out. We had the benefit of voting. We had the benefit of being considered on paper. What'd you say, Rufus? Upper class? I'm still trying to adjust.
That's what it says.
Look, we found out we peers with Magic Johnson today.
We need to have that may need to be a breakout conversations with our friends. Say, y'all, did y'all know that we upper but yet holding on? But yeah, listen, they didn't have the yet holding on category.
Where's the asterisk for upper parentheses? Yet holding on class. Yeah, exactly. So I say all that to say that there are a ton of things that we even talked about in this conversation that are points of privilege, because people literally put their bodies on the line for us to have that access, for us to have that opportunity, for us to be counted in that number, to be to attend colleges and universities and be educated in that number and all the things. And so what say I to you that don't want to vote? Be in that number.
Well, there it is, y'all. Be in that number. Be in that number. We're going to land the plane right there. There's nothing else to add.
Be in the
to
number,
be in
y'all.
that number. That's a whole sermon. That's a whole masterclass. That's a whole Substack post. Be sure you connect with us on Substack. We are trying to grow our engagement on Substack. We thank you for being connected with us on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. So we are out here in these streets, and we look forward to your continued engagement. Our team is working to get some more in-studio guests lined up so that we can tap into the minds and hearts of subject matter experts in their respected fields. So with that, we are going to sign off and say thank you, thank you, thank you. Do us a favor, hit the like button, hit the share button, hit the subscribe button, hit the comment button, and we will see you again real soon. God bless.
This episode of With Love, The Chambers was brought to you by the Vision Engineering Collective, where purpose meets strategy and vision comes to life. If you've been enjoying the stories, the laughs, and those deep life lessons, we invite you to support the show and help us keep the love flowing. Head over to www.coff.ee/withlovethechambers. Think of it like buying us a cup of coffee or two. As always, thank you for hanging with us. We'll see you next time. With Love, The Chambers.
That's a wrap for today's episode of With Love, The Chambers.
We hope you laughed, learned, and felt encouraged along the way.
If you enjoyed this conversation, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share with someone who needs a little love and wisdom today.
You can also connect with us online on all social media platforms at Rufus Chambers Online and at Jamila Chambers. We'd love to hear from you.
Until next time,
keep living, keep laughing, and keep learning with Love, The Chambers.